First reading is Labor Day by Joseph Miller. Even the bosses are sleeping late in the dusty light of September. The parking lot's empty and no one cares. No one unloads a ladder, steps on the gas, or starts up the big machines in the shop, sanding and grinding, cutting and binding. No one lays a flat bed of flux over a metal seam or lowers the steel forks from a tailgate. Shadows gather inside the sleeve of the empty thermos beside the sink. The bells go still by the channel buoy. The wind lies down in the west. The tuna boats rest on their tie-up lines, turning a little this way and that. Second reading, After Work by John Maloney. They're heading home with their lights on, dust and wood glue, yellow dome lights on their metallic long beds, 250s, 2500s, as much overtime as you want. Deadline, dotted line, dazed through the last few hours, dried primer on their knuckles, sawdust calf high on their jeans, scraped boots, the rough plumbing and electric in, way ahead of the game except for the check. Such a clutter of cans and iced tea bottles, napkins, coffee cups, paper plates on the front seat floor with cords and saws. Tired above the eyes, back of the beyond, thirsty. There's a parade of them through the two-lane highways, proudest on their way home, the first turn out of the job site, the first song with the belt off, pure at breath of being alone for now the insight of a full and answerable person. No one can take away the contentment of the first few miles, and they know that they can't describe it, the black and purple sky.
So a youth of this church recently asked his mother, just in the past week, "Is this coming Sunday finally September?" "Yes," his mother said. "Oh, good," said the young man, perplexed, thinking, why does he want school to come? "Because I am tired of talking about Sabbath at church." Touché, young man, touché. So a whole summer long of Sabbath, just one theme for the summer of rest and renewal and mindfulness and on and blah, blah, blah. So we can move on, almost. I could get into how we don't take time as we need as a culture to really delve deeply into a thing. We're a throwaway society that doesn't value slowness and slowing down, only throwing away and wanting to move on to the next new bright, shiny thing. But I digress. So I'll give it a rest. And I took note of this reflection because there is truth in that too. I agree that when you have delved deeply into something, explored it well, breathed deeply into it, that there is a difference from deep exploration and stagnation. There is a danger in a bunch of religious people gathering, or spiritual non-religious, however you want to say it, gathering every Sunday, only be invited to breathe and slow down and stop and pause, as important as those reminders and invitations are, without some balance, some rhythm, as the theme was last week, of work and activity, of creativity and having breath and rest that actually allow us to either heal or be renewed and rejuvenated for what is to come next. It could quickly become that you fall into one of the deadly sins of sloth, a sin even UUs can agree with at times, the stagnation and apathy that can overtake one's spirit, one's life, where life can maybe turn into only comfort or being a place where there's no challenge or invitation or call to create. When we forget that we are connected to the larger family of all souls and that we have a responsibility to help work for it and create its flourishing. So in this Sunday of transitioning from our summer theme of Sabbath, which is waning in these dog days of summer, toward our September theme of vision, and right here in the middle, here on Labor Day, what if we considered not just deeply spiritual reflective practices of Sabbath, but the simple common understanding of deep rest just after or in preparation for really hard work, and the sense of purpose or meaning or depth that work can have in someone's life. So kind of a slingshot into work. So 19,000 steps and 65 flights of stairs, hundreds of boxes, 3 trucks filled. That was called Friday, and helping a friend move. So sure, the day began with hopeful expectations of, there's enough room in the truck, and there's enough time before the apartment management comes to check us out, and the day begins with feeling on time, well prepared, ready. That's called 8 a.m. And then it all starts. Trying to fit this and that into the U-Haul. We don't need a bigger truck, do we? Well, we don't have time to get it now, so let's do what we can. And throughout the day, as deadlines loom, the pace within begins to quicken on the muscles and the nerves before the arms and the legs can catch up. Another bookshelf, another chair, another box, the terror of opening any other drawer or closet, afraid that you're going to find a bunch of stuff you forgot to pack. And the steps grow quicker, and the time grows shorter, and the space in the truck, and then the van, and then the Jeep grows smaller and smaller, but by God, you're going to get this done. And you begin to believe in miracles because the checkout person is running late. Thank God. And as your legs begin to feel a little numb beneath you, and you're pretty sure they're not going to give out at the bottom of the stairs, you see that you just might make it. And you shove every little thing around every other little thing, and you jam it in, and you try to close the truck door while only slightly scraping or gently smashing boxes and furniture. And the sound of the closing latch and the doors shut, the keys turned in. You collapse then into that front cab, and you drink a bottle of water in mere seconds, faster than you thought possible. And for a few short miles, you have never been so grateful to simply sit down and breathe deep the breath of life. Because the work was that hard, the exhaustion was that intense, and the relief was that real. Because the feeling of doing something hard and getting it done and helping a friend is that important to a life worth living. John Maloney writes, "Dried primer on their knuckles, sawdust calf-high on their jeans, scraped boots, way ahead of the game except for the check. Tired above the eyes, back of the beyond, thirsty. There's a parade of them through the 2-lane highways, proudest on their way home, pure breath of being alone for now. No one can take away the contentment of the first few miles. And they know they can't describe it, this black and purple sky." Sanitation workers Angelo and Eddie worked together for nearly 10 years on the same garbage route in Manhattan's West Village. After 31 years on the job, Angelo retired. In this short video we're going to show you, the pair remembered their days of working together. And there's some words at the beginning. If you can't read them, it just sets up the story with what I've shared here.
Everybody would just come out just to talk to you.
People would say, "Oh, good morning, Angelo. Good morning, Eddie. You want a cup of coffee? You want lunch?"
And the nuns kissing us, too. We had nuns on the route. I never had that before.
The younger guys would ask me, "How did you get that?" It's just a little good morning. Have a nice weekend. Hey, you look great today. I could do 14 tons of garbage. I can't lift a baby carriage off a step and carry it down, or hold someone's baby when they went to get their car.
The garbage ain't going nowhere. You know, the garbage will be there half hour from now, an hour. So when you get it, you get it.
He made a statement one day that he does all of the work and I do all the talking.
It came out wrong.
Look how
Yeah,
he's
rub it
getting
over.
at us. It just came out wrong.
I deserve it.
When I first came on the job, there was one old time, I remember Gordy Flo, his name was. One day, he stopped the truck. He tells me, Angelo, you look down this block first. See, all the sidewalks are all crowded up with garbage. So I didn't think nothing of it. My father always told me to respect my elders. I get to the end of the block, and he stops me again. Get out of the truck. Look back. Nice and clean, right? People go walk on the sidewalk. Guys can make deliveries. Be proud of yourself.
The day that people learned that you were going to retire, we went maybe a block or 2 blocks, and 6 people came up to him saying, "You're crazy. What am I going to do when you leave?"
I'm a little bit of a marshmallow anyway, but I never thought my last day would be so emotional for me.
He's crying, they're crying, I'm crying, watching them cry. And I've been very lucky because he's the best partner I ever had. We used to try to take the same vacation and try to have the same day off. And I miss my partner.
I feel the same way, Eddie. I'll be honest with you. I miss it terribly. I'm like that little kid looking out the window now when I hear the truck. I think I could have done another 31 years.
So whether it is hard physical labor, every so often for oneself or a friend, or it's punching a timesheet day in and day out on the job site, there can be a contentment if you're lucky, a sense of purpose and meaning and relationship built in hard work. There can be a few miles of pure breath where the black and purple sky greets you like a sacrament, where the clean street behind you reminds you of the small but important impact you can have on the world or on someone's life and on your own. And that hard work and the real relief after it can come to in many forms. Sometimes it's the hard work of that conversation that you do not want to have, or that call you do not want to make, but you know you have to, or you should. It's about preparing your mind and your heart, like stretching the soul to find within you some deep reserve, some capacity of strength and of courage that you may not have known you had. And then you brace yourself and you begin the heavy lifting, first to find your own ability to withstand whatever is to come next, and the heavy lifting of doing sometimes the hardest thing, which is just beginning, starting the process. Maybe it's making the call or uttering the first few hard words, because most of the time it's the ability to envision the rest that is after the hard work, the dream of what might be possible, what could change, what could come of it, the hope of transformation or reconciliation or new beginnings to propel through this hard thing, whatever it is, carrying boxes, working long shifts, rocking the boat, swallowing your pride. Sometimes the only way to work through hard things, to make it seem possible, is to imagine the moment when you can lay your burden down, set down the box, set down your heart, take a load off, and feel the relief in your own body when your tension eases and your breath slows and your body sets down, puts up its feet, and on your own or with another, you raise a glass of water or otherwise to a day's good work, a soul's good work done. So take a moment and think about a time when you had to do something that seemed impossible or exhausting or really hard, whether you ended up actually doing it or not. Maybe something life-changing and large, some decision, or something simply moment-changing and small. Maybe it was some actual physical hard thing, or it was some decision, or some imagining or creating or building or destroying, tangible or not, physical or not, maybe long ago or maybe right now. But what made you pause? What caused any fear or trepidation? What was in your way? Why was it so hard? And then what made you do it? Or convinced you to do it? Or did you have any agency in it at all? And either way, Think about who was there or what was there holding you, a literal person or a practice or a place, something deep within. What was giving you strength or healing or helping you envision what could happen if you could just do this? I want you to sit with whatever of those questions hit you or is holding you or is challenging you. Take a few breaths and remember what it felt like just before or during or after whatever this thing was. How has that experience, whether resolved or not, made you who you are? Built or created or shaped or impacted you? Sometimes when you look ahead, all you can see is the something in the way. It's too hard, too large, too complicated, too whatever. A street full of overflowing trash cans, sidewalks filled with yesterday's forgotten things. But when you remind yourself, and you remind one another, or someone reminds you, that there is pride and there is power and there is possibility in hard work, then you can create a space that has room for people to live lives that they dream of. You can be, as the old scriptures say, a repairer of streets to live in. You can clear a street for happiness and for joy. You can make or do the most magnificent thing, perhaps the thing you never thought possible, if you can work at it. If you can get someone to help you, and you tinker and you measure and you try by taking the time that it takes and believing that what comes next, what you can dream of, can still happen. And most often than not, it does not go as planned. It doesn't look like you thought it should look like, but you adjust as you go and you make new plans and you take a break and you take a walk with your best friend and you come back to it and you can still find some place to land on the other side that is solid ground. Solid enough to hold you and every mistake that brought you there. May Sarton writes, I thought of happiness and how it is woven out of the silence in an empty house each day, and how it is not sudden and it is not given, but it is creation itself, like the growth of a tree. Happiness is woven out of the peace of hours, she writes, and strikes its roots deep in the house alone, in the old chest in the corner and the cool waxed floors, white curtains softly and continually blown as the free air moves quietly about the room, a shelf of books, a table, a whitewashed wall. These are the dear familiar gods of home. For what is happiness, she writes, but growth in peace? The timeless sense of time when furniture has stood a lifespan in a single place, and as the air moves, so the old dreams stir. No one has ever heard thought or listened to a mind, but where people have lived within and in depth and found work that is good, the air is charged with blessing, and it blesses the world. So how does our work and our labor weave happiness for ourselves, and more importantly, after this long, dreadful summer of Sabbath? How do we weave something that is good and lasting for the world and for other people? How is our labor clearing the streets for health and well-being, taking our mistakes and learning to create something new, or loving the thing that we were convinced was all wrong? Maybe that's not just a thing. Maybe it's a person. Maybe it's ourselves. But with work that is so hard and so real and so important and so giving and so beautiful, we can sit after a long, hard day, tired to the bone, somehow feeling like our soul has still been lifted, right in the midst of our exhaustion, and say, I've been part of a larger work and creating glimpses of glory right here. And I can lay my burden down, and I know I have given it my all. And in those first few miles of rest, the contentment, the meaning, the purpose of it all, and all that hard work lets me say, I'm tired, but I feel so much better. And I can lay the burden down that I had before I did that hard thing, that I'd been carrying for so long. I can lay it down. And I can sit in the glory of pure breath. And I can notice the beauty beyond words of the black and the purple sky. The hymn is Glory, Glory, Hallelujah. I invite you to join a hand next to you or place your hand on your heart and breathe deep the breath of life. You can do that hard thing, and maybe you have 1,000 times in your life already. And when you're unsure of it, you got a whole room of people holding you, and you have a whole sky above you and a whole earth below you, calling your place in the family of all souls. There is strength and there is power and pride. So get to work. Amen.